Hi, this is John with Estimator, and welcome to part 4 in our series of covering the Estimator Retreat sample model. All right, the first part we discussed the foundation and generated takeoffs and estimate for the foundation for this building. The second part we did all the framing for the building, and in the third part we did all the exterior finishes for this building. And so now we're going to be talking about the interior finishes portion. So this is also a good time to introduce some of these other tools that we have that come with Estimator. So Takeoff Length used to be a separate tool. It now comes with Estimator. And what this tool does, this allows you to accumulate lineal footage or links of items. Maybe it's trim. You could use this tool for anything. I use Profile Builder to extrude a lot of my trim, and that gives me the lineal footage. But for things that you don't, or do not want to, you can simply use this tool here to acquire lineal footage of all kinds of things like trim and so forth. And you can do it either by tracing it, drawing along with it, or simply picking the edges. So it's a really powerful tool. You've got all these collections. You can open up your various collections. You can edit these collections. Once you've edited them and save them, you can refresh them to use them. So it's a pretty powerful tool. This is the Estimator area. This is basically what used to be the Takeoff area tool, which now comes with SketchUp, or comes with Estimator. And so let's use this. Take a time to do some square footage calculations in here that we had not done in the previous videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into I'm going to edit my collections, and I'm going to come in, and just to show you how this is done, I'm going to create a new row in here, and I'm going to call this area. I'm putting that in the very first part of this column here. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit space one time, and I'm going to put finished, and it has to be one. You can't use any spaces in here. So I'm going to put finished space unfinished. And you could add as many different areas as you want to include in there. And I'm going to come up and say File and Save. And I'm going to close this. And then I'm going to refresh my collections. Now I'm going to come over and do this drop down. You'll see that I've got my finished in there. So I'm going to choose the finished square footage. This sets a material, so you might want to do this for your carpet or floor coverings or hardwoods, whatever you want to use it for. You could actually assign a texture to that. And kill two birds with one stone. You can trace it around, you'll get your area. And what it's doing is it's creating a layer for you once you create this. So let's start a new collection here. We're going to do finished square footage, and we're going to use this square footage in some calculations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, there's two different ways of doing it. You can either draw it or you can pick it. So for the lower level here, I'm going to draw it. And technically, at least where I come from, square footage is measured from the outside of sheathing. So I'm going to go from the outside of sheathing to outside of sheathing, and I'm just simply tracing around the corners using the tool. And once I close that and come to a finish from where I started, you're going to see that red color that's created in there. And you can see by the tag that it's 334 square feet in there. It's shimmering surface like that because it's competing faces on top of that slab. But the point is, now we have an area in there, 334 square feet. The other way you can do it is by picking. So let's take this loft square footage because we have to pay for that as well. So let's say we're going to do picking now, and I'm going to hover over that face and choose it. And that just added. So we're up to exactly 500 square feet of finished space in this little retreat. All right, and what that's done, I'm going to close that now, and I'm going to open up my entity info information and layers and so forth. So when I get over here and I'll go down, and there's been a new layer created that's called Takeoff Area Finished. And then we can use that in our layers tool to assign different values to it. So I'm going to just select that tool or select that area. And when I've done that, we'll go to areas and we can find that, well, let's see, let me do a better job of selecting that. So let's choose this Takeoff area finished. Okay. Now I'm going to have a bunch of costs associated with area. So let's just start by the first thing first is a building permit. I never did do that in the earlier one. So let's go with building permits. And you can see it put it in 25 cents per square foot for this building permit. All right, and then I'm going to hit the plus button, and that should not be, okay, that's 25, 1 square foot. I see what we did here. We don't have that recorded properly in our, once again, in my little database here that I've given you guys. It says quantity. So it needs to be square feet, and hit save on that. Okay, now we're going to refresh it over here. You see building permit changed. Yes. So now 500 square feet is $125 for this building permit. That's a little bit more like it. So I'm going to also hit the plus button, and I'm going to come in for the same thing for area, and I've got my framing labor that I pay per square foot. So I'm going to choose that. So that gets us, that's $2,500 for the framer at $5 a square foot. All right, let's look at another one per square foot would be both interior paint and exterior paint. So I'm going to say interior paint, and it's $2 per square foot. I'm going to do exterior paint. Come in here under description and say exterior paint, and going with the same $2 a square foot for the exterior. So now we're adding up some things in here that are square footage basis. So another one might be we hit the plus button, cleanup at the end of the job. I pay a person to come in and clean the house cleaning. So that would be final clean. Let's find the best way that I've got that in the database. So clean, there we go. Interior building clean, and that's $2 a square foot. So you can see just from doing that, we've picked up quite a few quotes, if you will, or some more items. Okay. So now let's get into, I'm going to Control D is my way of cutting off my tray over there. So let's take a closer look at some of the interior finishes, and we'll get into the more fun stuff once we get past the initial bit with like the insulation, so the boring stuff. So I'm going to select the insulation in this wall here and go to my materials tabs, and you'll see I've got foam walls as my material that I've chosen to go by. All I did for the insulation was simply created a plane that was on the face of the wall, and I just moved it back a ½ inch or so to get it to where it shows the studs pop through. It's a very quick way of adding a simple plane in there and texturing it, and then I can get an accurate square footage account for my materials, or for my, in this case it's a turnkey. So I'm going to come in and say foam. As soon as I type that in, you can see I've got foam insulation walls, and click in the next tab and you can see it's $1.55 per square foot. So that one wall is $347 in insulation. If I was to right click on that and use TomTom's tool to select all on selected layers, that's going to select all the walls that I have in here, and I'm up to $961 in insulation. All right, so then that's simply how we do the walls. Then I'm going to click the scene that says insulation ceiling, and so I've got a different cost for the foam because it's a thicker foam, more dense and more expensive for the attic insulation, or for the what's going in these rafters. So now when I select that face that is the sloped ceiling there, and I go to materials, now I've got foam attic, and I'm going to come in here and say foam insulation, and there's the attic insulation. So that one's $443, and this slope in here is $352. So that's all of our insulation. So the next thing I have is walls and drywall. So the way that I do drywall, and again you can read about it in SketchUp for Builders, is one of the methods that I use. Framer will allow you to add drywall to the inside of the walls. And I use that quite often, but sometimes I still go through for a cleaner fashion is I model each of the rooms with the drywall. And what I do is I trace the perimeter of the room to create a face right around the edge of the framing. I offset it a ½ inch for the drywall, and then I delete this face that's in the middle, and then I pull it up to within a ½ inch of the top plate. I cut out for the openings for the windows and doors, and then what I do is I'll texture the painted side with some nice color that the client can choose. But if I double click on this, you're going to see with everything else cut off, I've got a texture called Drywall 48, and I've got one that's 54 for 54-inch boards. In this case, it's 8-foot ceilings. And so I'm using this Drywall 48 texture that's on the back side of this is how I'm doing the estimate, because you get into lots of different shapes and angles and slopes and things like that, and the material is a better way of doing it that way. So that's one method. If I'd used Framer and had it done on the walls, then it would be a layer for drywall. So there's two different methods for doing that. So I'll close out of that edit, and I'm going to select just this one wall in here and go to my Materials tab, and you see I've got the Drywall 48 on. So we got drywall, and let's go into drywall per board for material. That's taking the square feet divided by 48, and that's $20 per board, putting 20% waste in there. This is again coming from the items database. I can also add labor. So let's click this button again, and we'll come in and say drywall, and we've got labor in here. And that too divides it by 48 for 4 by 12 sheets at also $20 per board. So the total is about $40 per board. So that gets our total in there. So now if I was to select everything on this using, again, TomTom selections tools, all on the selected layer, it's picking all of my drywall walls. And you can see that I've got $985 worth of total of drywall on the walls. So that's how I take care of the drywall. Drywall ceilings done the same way. You can see here that I just modeled a plane under the underside of those rafters and pulled it out a ½ an inch, triple clicked, made it a group, and I textured the backside with this Drywall 48 texture. So now we already have the price on that because we've already entered it once. And remember with Estimator, once you've done this, once you've created your layers or used this material, if you have this in your template file, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Every time you model it, it's going to automatically give you the pricing. Or you could export layers of things that are on layers as an assembly and bring it into a template file. But once you've done one good model and you've entered a lot of this data, just make that your template. Delete everything else and make it your template file. And that way, when you model these things, you'll instantly get your pricing. You see here. So that's all of our drywall. So next we're going inside. I've got this shower prep. Now you don't have to get so detailed with this. You can just use the tile. If you're interested in doing more detail, that's why I've got this in here. So in this case, I've got this shower backing with this Durock in here. And what I'm going to do is use the material again for that Durock, and I'm going to come in and just type in Durock, and hopefully I've got that in my database, which I do. So it's taking the area of that, dividing it by 15 because it's 3 by 5 sheets. Okay, so that's how we're coming up with 15 sheets of Durock, and that's a price that I pay installed at $25 a sheet. So that's taking care of that. So we also have our shower pan, which I made as a component. And so if I come in and do the mud base that my guy charges me for, here's my shower pan. I pay him $350 to do that shower pan. So again, these are just some extra little things for detail in there that you may or may not need. So that takes care of our shower pan. So I'm going to select a shower here, and we're going to go to the Materials tab, and you'll see that I've got two different tile selections here. I've got the 12-inch wall tile, and I've got a shower floor tile. So let's just start with that one, and we're going to say tile. I'm going to type in tile in the description. Tile material allowance. I'm going to click on that. I've got an allowance of $3.50 per square foot for the tile. I got 15% waste in there. And I'm going to further click the button to add for our labor. So if I say tile labor, and that's in at $6.50 a square foot. So that's our shower tile right there for all of it. And then if I look at this floor tile over here, you can see that I've got this. I've got two entries. I've got the tile itself, and you can scroll through these. So it's 71 square feet of tile at $261, and then the labor at $403. So that takes care of all the tile in this one little shot here. So we've got $2,900 in that shower tile area. So that's tile. And then let's look at out front. We've got this LVP. Now it's on concrete. I'm not going to do hardwoods out on that, but people love that look. So LVP's become pretty popular in here. So I'm using this again using the material file or the material texture. In this case, it's this dark parquet flooring, and I'm going to start typing in LVP, which is luxury vinyl plank flooring, and it's as simple as that. $6 per square foot. There's my flooring there. Okay, then I have now the next, since I put that floor down first before I put my trim down, the next scene is interior trim. Now we've got a whole lot going on in here, and just like in the exterior video, if you watch that, and in my book, SketchUp for Builders, I talk about how I group layers for things like trim. Now, for my trim, I use Profile Builder up here to extrude out all my various trims, whether it's 1x4, 1x6, crown molding, that sort of thing. But what I do, and I'm going to close Estimator for a second, is I put that in groups. So the first thing I would do is trim around the door and the exterior windows and exterior doors. Then I have to install my interior doors and then run the baseboard to those. So let's take a look at an interior door, for example. So in this case, I've selected an interior door. I'm going to open up Estimator, and that door is a component that is going to be in our items database, and it's a 2/6 door. So if I come in here and say door, here is my 2/6 pre-hung door right here. So when I select that, I can see that's a $110 door that's in there. I've also got a lock set that goes on there. So this is a nested component because it's got a lock set in that same component. So I can click on the plus button, and if I type in lock set, let's see if I've got my privacy lock set that goes into that bathroom. So I've got two items on that one component just by clicking the plus button and adding other things. If you bought the hinges separately, you could do the hinges. In my case, I buy a pre-hung door that comes with the door jambs and the door pre-hung with the lock set being sold separately. Then the other door that we have is this one here, this pocket door slab. So that pocket door, we'll say, start typing in pocket, and here's our 2/6 door slab for the pocket door. All right, and so we've got the interior doors. Now let's look at this trim. As I was saying, I'm going to close Estimator for a second, and this is what I was talking about with the grouped layers. See, when I hide rest of model, you can see all the various types of trim that I have. I have window jamb, I've got 1x4. Let's open up Estimator and you'll see what I'm picking on here. And so you can see I've got these various layers. I've got 1x6, then I've got 1x4 on the sides. You see the 1x4. So you can see how these are on their own layer so that Estimator can give us a takeoff. But they're also grouped into a layer that is interior trim, and that's to control the visibility. So that, I mean, that's basically how I break these things out. I do it with my exterior and interior trim both. So I'm going to select that group and go to my layers tab, and then you can see that all that has been put under this interior trim main. But I've got two different types of trim in this house. I've got a 1x6 for the baseboard and the top trim of the windows. So if I type in 1x6, and here is my baseboard, and we'll use the same for the top of the windows. So that's my pre-finished, pre-primed 1x6 material, and I've got 6 pieces in the house. So then also I go through and I choose the 1x4, and I'm going to do the same thing, type in 1x4, and here is my 1x4 finished material here, this casing. So I've got 6 of those in the house as well. So that takes care of our interior trim and our interior doors. So the next thing we're going to look at here is, now that we've got everything painted, we've got our painter that we took care of in our area that we mentioned before. Let's take a look at this carpet, and I'm going to do the same thing with the carpet by choosing the carpet itself. You can do carpet on layers, or you can do it on materials. Now, sometimes I like to do it on layers so that it doesn't matter what texture I choose. But if it's a texture that I'm going to use for different levels of pricing, you might want to do it by materials. And as you change the material, it changes the price. So we've got 2 different ways we can do it. We could either say, okay, let's take the area of the carpet, or let's take the area of the material. So let's do the area of the carpet itself on this layer, because you've got 2 different ways of doing it. I think the safer way in the long term is to have it on to your layers, and that way as you're changing the texture, you don't have to recreate the budget. Again, it depends on if you have stock materials that you use and have different price points. So let's just go with the layer this time, and I'm going to come in and say carpet, and there is my carpet allowance, and that is $30 per square yard. So it's taking the square yard attribute from there. So that's our carpet. We've also got this cool little bed that we folded down there that folds down. So we could put that in as a built-in component. So I'm going to select this built-in unit here, and under my components tab, I've got this fold down bed unit, and I'm going to just start typing in bed. And there's the built-in bed that we added over in our database because we synced it up. Okay. So now that that's got the built-in in there, we're getting covered. Now we didn't talk about mechanicals. You can see all the light switches and outlets and stuff that I have in there. So let's take a second to enter some quotes. And let's hit the plus button in here, and let's do our electrical, and just say that electrical quote, let's say it's all in, and I'm going to put, say, $5,000 in here. All right, and so we've got $5,000 in there for electrical. There we go. So that included in the quotes. So I'm going to cut that off right now. So we've got the electrical quote. Let's add another one for plumbing. So let's say plumbing quote. And again, in our database, it's 0 because we don't have it quoted out yet. So I'll put in $5,000 for the plumber on this house. So now anytime we want to include the quotes, we can see that's growing over in there. So that takes care of a couple of the mechanical quotes. So now let's look at the bathroom. So in this case, we've got several things going on in here. We've got a toilet. So, and again, if this is something that you have in your library, in your components library, and you've already got pricing associated with it, when you import it into your model, all that data is going to come over with it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I'm trying to stress that. So we've got this Kohler Devonshire toilet, and I'm just going to put in toilet, and here's the Kohler Devonshire toilet that we have. That's $350. We got that. We've got this nice shower faucet mixer, and I'm going to come in and say this is the Kohler shower fixture, and I'm going to just start typing in Kohler, see if I've got that in my database, and I've got the shower faucet set. So we've got that in there. We've got this nice glass frame door. It's pretty cool. It's a frameless heavy glass unit, and I'm going to come over and say shower, and here is my heavy glass door installed at $1,500, and that includes all the hinges and hardware and everything that you see there. All right, I have my vanity and that mirror unit. So let's see what we have. That should be as a kit. So vanity and top right there, and that's a $395 vanity. Okay, we also have this light fixture, so let's select that and go to our components, and we've got that that would be a vanity light. So we'll start typing in vanity, and there's our vanity light for $68. So let's see, we got a towel bar in here. Let's go to our component that is this 30-inch towel bar, and we'll start typing in the description of towel, if I can spell it properly. There's our towel bar. We've got a for $33. There's our toilet paper holder. We've got, and so we'll choose this one here, and this is a toilet paper holder. So let's see, toilet paper holder, there we are. So that gets our bath hardware in there and our vanity and so forth. All right, so let's step out now into the kitchen, and we've got some things going on here. Let's see. So I've grouped all this cabinetry together in a component, and then there's nested components inside that. So let's go to the components tab, and we see you've got this component called kitchen. That's the parent component here. So I'm going to come in and say kitchen quote, because I would just enter a quote for that. So I'm going to say, let's see here, cabinetry. That's where I've got it, under cabinetry. So cabinet allowance and it's 0 right now because this is not a specific job. We don't know what the quote is yet. And I'm going to come in and say that it's $5,000. Now you notice you're going to get this message that says you've changed an item because it's changing from your items database. Now I'm going to click OK, and then the next time it will not sync this up. In other words, if I go and update my lumber pricing and then I go back and sync the database by clicking this button, I don't want this to revert back to 0. So I'm protecting it by locking it in. So that's the $5,000 that we have in for that. So then we've got the, let's go down our list of things that we've got in there. We got a kitchen faucet. So I'm going to say faucet, and here is my kitchen faucet in my items database. And then we've got other items in here. We've got the under counter refrigerator. So I'm going to put REF and see if I can't find a refrigerator. So we'll start looking for this refrigerator. So here's our 24-inch under counter refrigerator. That's $500. Then we've got a microwave oven in there. We've also got a countertop. Let's do that one. So in the countertop, we'll choose our granite tops materials, and we're going to go and click in here, and it's going to take the square footage of that countertop to give us the price for that counter. So we've got our granite countertop in there, and let's get the what else do we have in there? Microwave oven. So we'll type in microwave, and there's our microwave oven for $350. We also had these cool little the big door handles that we've got in there. So we'll choose those from the drop down, and we saw those in there somewhere in the sea of all these other things. There's our door handle, and so under our door pulls, so let's look up under door pulls. There we go. Door pulls large. Those are $10 each, and we got 4 of those. So that gets everything that we have to do with that kitchen assigned in there. So let's go and looking at furniture. All right, let's go out into the great room, and we got a couple other things we'll add some pricing to. So we've got this wood stove that we've got in here, and that'll be a component. And so what we'll do is we'll go to the components tab. Here's got this stove. Let's start typing in stove and see if that wood stove comes up. So that's $800. Let's do a couple other things. We've got some nice sconce lights here. So we'll type in our sconce lights, and you can again have your entire database of all the different stuff that you have in here. I've just got a few. So now that's that same light right there. We've got a love seat. So we'll type in love seat. Whoops, if I spelled it properly. There it is, love seat. And we've got a coffee table in here. So let's see if that we can find a coffee table. There we go. And we've got this rug in here. So let's call this rug. And again, you could add pricing to all of your accessories, and you don't have to have them in your items database. Let me stress that again. You can keep adding these things all you want, but you have to have a description. If you don't have a description, it will not report. So it has to have a description. It does not have to have the cost code. It just has to have a description or an item code. So we've also got this shiplap going on back behind this wall here and up in the loft. That's pretty cool. So let's select that wall there, and we'll go under materials. In this case, I'm looking for this this texture that we use, this wood board texture. So we'll just start typing in shiplap, and there's our shiplap material. Excellent. So we've got our shiplap material there, and we've got it on this back wall in here as well. So if we looked at the same texture, we've got $405 worth of shiplap on that wall. So that gives you an idea how to generate quantity takeoffs for your interior finishes, as well as derive full estimates. So another thing to show you on the interiors here, since we've discussed this in previous videos, but if you're an interior person and you haven't watched the other videos, we have an inspection tool. So we've got things in here we could have overlooked. You know, what if we hadn't assigned pricing to something in here that was important? So what we've done, is this is just the interior portions, okay, that we've been discussing. I'm going to select everything that you see here, and then I'm going to go to Extensions, Estimator, and Inspection. And what that's going to do is it's going to hide everything, every group that has estimator data associated with it, leaving only things that do not. So as we're looking at this, you know, you can see like the electrical outlets and stuff like that. We put a quote in there for that. Some of these accessories I didn't put pricing to, like the paintings and so forth. You could have done that, and this is the good thing, is pointing out what does not have pricing. Now, some of the more important things, like this built-in, we know we put a pricing in for that. I've got this door jamb that goes with the interior door, so I really need to fix that. I've got this water heater that I could put a price to. This ladder could be given a price to. These railings, and certainly the carpet up here. And the other furnishings. So this is a really powerful part of that tool to make sure that you're not missing anything. So when you're done, you just hit Escape, and it's going to revert back to where you were before you did the inspection, and you can go through and fix those items that you did not have pricing associated with it. So now that we have everything that we've assigned pricing to for the interiors, let's open up Estimator. And what we're going to do is select everything that we see here. And this is just, again, all the interior finishes that we've been adding pricing to. So I'm going to select everything in the view. And it's going to calculate, and it's going to come up with all of these interior items. So we've got $26,000 worth of items. And we also have quotes that we did not throw in there. So let's throw those quotes in there. When you're done with this and you want to put your margin in it, you can check this box to add your margin, whatever margin you want to put in there. It's not markup, it's margin of the total sales price. And then when you're done, let's pull this project tab up here, run this HTML report. Now you can choose, when you're generating the report, you can choose which of these you want to show only, material, labor, sub, equipment, or other if you wanted to. Most people don't use this section. But you could choose to show or hide columns. Maybe you don't want to show pricing. Maybe you want to not show category. Whatever you want to do, you can control the columns with that. And then you can run this nice HTML report. It's branded with your logo and your company information and your project information. And then you can see everything that we've got in here. Some of these are quotes, but other things are what we've shown in the selection, or plumbing fixtures, electrical, fireplace, windows and doors are in there from previous episode. Floor coverings, interior trim materials, cabinetry, appliances, lighting, fans, everything is all displayed in this nice report. You can choose which columns to reorder these columns if you like to, and you can print it, or you can save it as a PDF. Or you could actually export this as a CSV report, which should be a CSV file that you could then bring into Excel if you needed to. But the point is, this is 100% inside of SketchUp. You do not need a spreadsheet. You can do it all in here, make your changes, and then rerun your totals. And it's all real time without needing to use Excel. So thank you for watching this video, and look forward to the next one. Thank you.